Margaret awoke, startled, a cold sweat clinging to her. She gathered her thoughts. Aged wood creaked, echoing through the quiet rooms. Near the house stood a shrine to Rhea Dana, goddess and daughter of the land, of Rhea and a being of comfort. Margaret sought answers. But the goddess did not speak. There was only the faint whisper of something dark, something hungry. The old seer's bones felt the weight of their age as she climbed. The only thought on her mind, has it begun again? John's mission would be a simple one. He was to investigate Rhea's greatest shrine. His mother presented him with a fresh divinity shard. From his brother came a newly sharpened sword. His wife gave him a kiss, and his daughter's hugs were full of reason to return home safe. Rhea, a land long forgotten, a place of unimaginable beauty. It first appeared as sludge given life, slithering creatures, small and vile. A wall, impeding further progress. A battle was certain. light itself, the corruption abated, leaving the shard cold in hand, dark, in need of life. The shard grew warm, humming softly from the harnessed energy. Before him was now one more dangerous than those that came before. Goblins, a familiar threat, albeit farther out than usual. Magnificent, but dangerous, a land of love found and of love lost. Inherently violent and ill-bathed, goblins were an unfocused but constant threat. Before him was sacred ground, left untouched in days gone by. Remaining calm and collected, the shock of his heart-skipping beats was concealed in expert fashion. Before him stood Linda, his eldest daughter, with bow and quiver at the ready, determined to do her part. Before the Guardians were not beasts feeding, but monsters consuming, destroying others. They corrupted and distorted, creating even more hungry husks. Both father and daughter gathered their thoughts, their hearts heavier than before. How would they explain what they had witnessed? The ancient tree had been cut down. Together, father and daughter described the horror, the creatures dripping with decay that slithered into bodies stuck between life and death to bolster their ranks. Grandma Margaret confirmed what they all feared. It was the corruption, a cruel entity spoken of only with hushed voices, an ocean of darkness that flowed from the top of Mount Morta. And the Bergsons' duty was to stand against this devouring deluge of death. Kevin was also eager to do his part in the family's fight, especially when his older brother Mark was off somewhere. He was as much a guardian of their mountain home as any of them. She stood. If they were to reach the summit and destroy this evil, as the Bergsons of old had done in the past, they would need the assistance of the sanctuary. Given to the Bergsons by Rhea herself, the sanctuary was a gateway to the mysterious lands around the mountain. Margaret pointed to the huge crystal at the center of the den, revealing their next task: to activate it and open the way to the source of the corruption. And once Rhea's 3 spirits are gathered on the grounds, the only gate to the top of Mount Morta will open in this chamber. By himself, or with the assistance of those who loved him, John needed to gather the 3 spirits from their lands. Without them, he would not be able to stem the flow of the corruption. Halls of Anaidia must be here, for she needs to be found. A celestial shard chipped directly from the ancient crystal in the sanctuary. It would be the Bergsons' lifeline, a tether to pull them back home before death's fateful whisper. Filling the winding tunnels of the silk-covered caves, the acrid taste of poison lingered in the air. Spiders. Linda told herself it was only target practice. As she readied her bow, they must find the spirit deep within the caves. The Bergson began to slip away, wondering if this was death. It was warmer than... They gasped for air as the celestial shard brought them back, a sensation no hero could become accustomed to. As she heard John and Linda describe their foray, thoughts rushed through Margaret's head. The corruption had amplified the creature's wickedness, and no longer were they part of the harmony of the Rhea. With the new threats looming, Margaret asked Ben to prepare his workshop. He would have to take charge of enhancing the warrior family's weapons and armor. Pilgrims, once lost in cavern mazes, were now trapped, their poor families forever looking forward to a return that will never happen. The halls of Anea Daya, so mesmerizing in their magnificence, were to be found at the end of a long road. And a hero never knows what is waiting them at the end of a road. Moving is more important than reaching. What strange thing could have dragged Grandmother this far? The will of Rhea will flow in those still obelisks to aid the Guardians. This was the only thing Margaret silently whispered. And the Bergson had to return home in order to understand what had occurred. Kevin's need to help all began when his elder brother Mark left the house. His brother was strong, making any near him feel safe. But he left Kevin. Though Uncle Ben knew what his nephew needed, a focal point for his aspirations. The villagers would sing praise of their guardians, of the Bergson family. Through strained breaths, they got it out. Some locals were in danger. Love, truly a divine emotion, especially during dark days. Love had motivated this mother to lay down her life for her cub. Love now compelled the young one to try and rouse her from eternal slumber. And it would be love welcoming the new orphan among the Bergsons. Not all in the caves were refugees. Some were just traveling merchants stuck in a bind. The strange-looking shopkeep dusted off his clothes, tipped his hat. He invited them to stop by his shop later, promising something for all adventuring needs. A set of daggers made just for him. They would be his guide to finding himself, his focal point. The boy tested them. They felt good. Not too heavy, not too light. Like an extension of himself. Uncle Ben suggested a few practice swings outside. The daggers sliced the air, guided with an easy grace. His nephew was clearly a natural with the blades and would be ready to join his father and sister in no time. But the boy's mother had words on that subject. 2 of her children were already risking their lives, and she would not have her precious little boy out there as well. Regretfully, he took the daggers away. Who was he to argue with a mother when it involved her child? Handing over the daggers was like abandoning a part of himself. He was meant for them, meant to be out there fighting for what was right. He just needed to convince them. Although in the safety of the Bergson's house, the young cub was not yet free from danger. Exhaustion racked the animal's body, its chest heaving for even the smallest of breaths. The family believed several plants found deep in the nearby caves, combined together, could serve to remedy the situation. Uncle Ben pondered over a map he received from a refugee. The Silk Caverns were a twisted maze of dead ends and venomous nests. But somewhere along the right path, a Neadia, spirit of the Caldipo Caves, rested. A mother away from her child would cause worry even in the best of times. And this was far from the best of times. It had been more than a year since Mark, Mary's eldest son, had gone to live in the monastery deep in the forest. The same forest was now the source of such worrying news. Lucy could spend hours with paper and pencil, giving life to objects she witnessed in the clouds, drowning herself in her own world, a place empty of life's trials and tribulations. Away from Grandma Margaret, who was always insisting that she continue to practice her other specialty. When light faded from the sky and most were fast asleep, Mary would write about her family, immortalizing them for future generations. The sight had become painfully all too familiar. The sorrow always hard for the Guardian to bear. Not able to save, only revenge. When all was thought lost, when the struggle was becoming too heavy a burden, a young voice cried out. Stifling his sobs, the small boy spoke of his mother. She was not far away, and returning to her was his only need. Tears slipped down the mother's face in praise of her good fortune, thankful for her son's safe return. And for the briefest of moments, the burden of Mount Morta became lighter upon the hero's shoulders. On calm days such as these, Mary enjoyed venturing into the nearby grove. The woodland creatures came out to lend her company. The smallest ate from her basket, while she took in the serenity of it all. Nothing could quite match the calm that Linda felt when playing her violin. Its sublime sound, the perfect counter to the nerve-wracking uncertainty and chaos. Expansive and dangerous, would they be able to find Kevin? Or would the spider's lair trap Kevin first? This was Grandpa Adam's journal of his adventures. He writes about how the generis mushroom was vital to any concoction with the purpose of healing. While naturally poisonous, any skilled brewmaker could extract the important properties without danger. Kevin returned from his saga with barely a scratch, yet he found no appreciation from his family, especially his father. Despite having Linda on his side, his father was still mad at him for endangering himself and worrying them all, including his pregnant mother. His favorite line, asking how he could be so inconsiderate. He wondered whether Uncle Ben would understand his bravery and initiative better. With his heroic act unrecognized, the young boy waited, frustrated, expecting more punishment. What Kevin had not expected was his parents' reaction. Heartened by his courage, his father was going to teach him the ways of battle, and his mother was far from the frail and always worried housewife she had seemed. A Bergson through and through, she gave him her blessing and asked only that he temper his courage with caution. Perhaps Uncle Ben was the happiest of them all. Not only had his nephew held his own in combat, but had done so with the weapons he had made for him. Kevin only wished his older brother Mark was there to witness his rise to the family calling. She knew where it was coming from. Her ancestors had spoken of such corruption flooding down the mountain, but Grandma Margaret wanted to know what it was and what needed to be done to destroy it. There could not have been a more perfect description of this root than its name, cave web. Rather bland to the taste, but still edible and full of nutrients. How can this be? Is he lost? Muttered Margaret under her breath. Lost in the study of the walls and oblivious to her surroundings. She always had time for her children, but it was best to leave Grandma to her pursuits now. Danger was on all sides. Despite being surrounded by all manner of hungering creatures, the two were busy arguing. They should have gone left. They should have gone right. Perhaps they should have never ventured forth at all. The slightest crack in a person's courage was all it needed to enter. All 8 eyes studied the one so willing to walk into their own tomb. creature howled in anguish as death slowly beckoned to bestow its peace. A way had opened, a step closer to the spirit at the heart of the caves. Though before taking that step, caution dictated a return to home to inform the family of the newfound passage. Defeated, the Spider King had been removed from the path leading to the halls of Anaeadiah, although the pestering of greedy goblins might still prove dangerous along the way. Uncle Ben was pointing out possible routes forward, speaking of the troubles pilgrims had run into in the lost trenches. The past holds both joy and bitterness of time. Sheila could help them, as John said, but Ben could not bring himself to overlook the sting of their past relationship.